Hill County 911, what's your emergency?
I just killed my children.
Excuse me?
I just killed my children.
Where are you?
I'm in the abandoned house on Highway 77 right after you go underneath the highway. One of them's still alive. Hurry.
On June 5th, 2009, a day that started with the promise of a fun outing ended in tragedy. Debra Jeter, a mom with a troubled past, took her two daughters to a deserted house off a quiet Texas highway. What was supposed to be a special day turned into a nightmare. There, in a place that was meant to be empty, Debra attacked her daughters. The older sister, 13-year-old Kirsten, managed to fight back and scream for her younger sister to run away. But for 12-year-old Kelsey, it was too late. So why did Debra Jeter take such drastic actions against her own daughters? What was in her troubled past that might explain these unimaginable decisions? And how did a day meant for family fun turn into such a horrifying ideal? To truly understand the answers to these questions, we need to trace back to where it all began. This heartbreaking story takes us into the depths of a mother's breakdown and the devastating impact it had on her family. Debra Jeter seemed to embody the image of an average American woman from her generation, born in the late 1970s. She was married to Lester Lee Jeter, and together they raised two daughters, Kirsten and Kelsey. But beneath the surface of this seemingly typical family life, there were deep-rooted troubles brewing within the Jeter household. The first signs of turmoil appeared back in 2004 when Debra faced serious allegations of physically abusing her daughter Kirsten. These charges brought to light unsettling behaviors, but were eventually dropped after Debra spent some time in a mental health institution. This stint under psychiatric care hinted at underlying issues that were far from resolved. As the years wore on, the marital strain grew too severe to manage. By May 2009, the relationship had deteriorated to the point where Lester felt compelled to file divorce. This legal action marked the beginning of an even more tumultuous period for Debra. The separation took a heavy toll on her, exasperating her mental health struggles to new heights. The situation reached a critical and shocking point shortly after Lester filed for divorce. In an alarming incident, Debra nearly ended her own life, a desperate act that unfolded right in front of Kirsten and Kelsey. This harrowing experience underscored the severity of her mental state and the profound impact of the crumbling marriage. Recognizing the gravity of her condition, Debra was admitted to a mental health facility where she received intensive treatment for 15 days. This intervention was a desperate attempt to stabilize her spiraling mental health and safeguard her well-being amid the overwhelming pressures of her personal life. As Debra battled her inner demons behind the closed doors of the treatment facility, her family braced for what the future might hold, unaware of the further tragedies that lay ahead. During Debra Jeter's treatment for her mental health issues, the courts had made some crucial decisions regarding the safety and custody of her daughters. Lester Jeter, Debra's husband, was granted temporary custody of Kirsten and Kelsey. To ensure their safety, he also secured a restraining order against Debra. However, upon Debra's release from the mental health facility, the situation took a significant turn. The judge, believing in her recovery, decided to waive the restraining order and remove the requirement for supervised visits with her daughters. This decision allowed Debra to plan what she described as a surprise outing with Kirsten and Kelsey, a gesture meant to perhaps mend ties and create new, happier memories. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly benign plan, there were deep-seated concerns that had been simmering for years. Only a few weeks before this planned outing turned tragic, Lester had expressed his fears to a judge about Debra's potential threat to their children. His worries were not unfounded, as Debra had previously exhibited alarming behavior. 2 weeks before the incident, a particularly distressing episode occurred where Debra attempted to take her own life in front of her daughters. This event prompted an emergency response, with a fire truck and ambulance rushing to the scene after Debra had consumed a dangerous amount of pills. The incident highlighted a pattern of instability and raised red flags about Debra's mental state. Despite her recent release from a facility and the judge's decision to lift restrictions, the underlying issues seemed far from resolved. Lester's fears about the safety of their daughters were clear and growing, yet the upcoming visit was set to proceed. This blend of past concerns and present apprehensions created a tense atmosphere, casting a shadow over what was meant to be a healing and unifying family outing. So, on the fateful day of June 5, 2009, a seemingly ordinary drive unfolded under Texas skies as Lester Jeter took his daughters to reunite with their mother, Debra. The girls, Kirsten and Kelsey, bubbled with excitement at the prospect of seeing their mom, completely unaware of the dark turn their day was about to take. Their excitement, however, was tragically misplaced. Debra, who had different plans, drove them not to a place of warmth and welcome, but to a desolate, abandoned residence off Interstate 77 in Milford. The destination was an eerie, abandoned ranch house hidden away in the rural stretches of Hill County, Texas. The setting was isolated, far removed from the eyes of the outside world, which ominously suited Debra's unthinkable intentions. As they entered the dimly lit, dusty interior of the ranch house, a chilling scene began to unfold. In the shadows of the bedroom, Debra turned on her eldest daughter, 13-year-old Kirsten, wielding a knife with a terrifying resolve. Amid the struggle, Kirsten, grappling with shock and disbelief, managed to yell to her younger sister, 12-year-old Kelsey, urging her to escape to safety. It was a desperate cry, one that punctuated the air with both panic and the fierce instinct to protect. However, as Kelsey attempted to flee, Debra redirected her frightening focus towards her. With a swift and dreadful action, she critically injured Kelsey's throat with the knife, sealing a tragic fate. Meanwhile, Kirsten suffered wounds on her back where she had been stabbed repeatedly during her struggle to defend herself and escape her mother's sudden and horrifying aggression. This day, marked by confusion, terror, and heartbreak, was far from the loving reunion anyone had hoped for. Instead, it turned into a harrowing ordeal of survival and loss, as one sister managed to flee while the other was left grappling with life-threatening injuries. The serene backdrop of rural Texas was marred forever by the events in that abandoned house, events that would leave an indelible scar on the family and the community. After she had attacked her daughters, she just sat there. In this way, nearly 3 harrowing hours had passed since the tragic events unfolded at the abandoned ranch house off Interstate 77. In a desperate turn, Debra Jeter finally dialed 911 to report the unimaginable chaos she had caused.
Under what highway? You're on Highway 77 where?
I'm on Highway 77 right after you go under 35 going towards Milford. Get an ambulance out here to save the one that didn't die. Come on. Hurry up.
What's your name?
Call them. Have you already called them?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay.
I need your name.
I don't want to say your name.
Hello?
Hello?
Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Her voice was fraught with urgency, yet she initially refused to identify herself or reveal the ages of her children to the dispatcher. Despite the gravity of her actions, Debra's focus shifted to a plea for haste. She implored the dispatcher to send help quickly to try to save her 13-year-old daughter, Kirsten, who was desperately clinging to life after the attack. As the call grew to a close, Debra made it clear that she was unarmed, holding nothing but her cell phone in a tense grip, a stark contrast to the violence that had just occurred. She communicated this to assure the approaching emergency responders of her non-threatening posture at that moment. Outside, the evidence of the day's horror was plainly visible. The knife she had used to attack her daughters, 12-year-old Kelsey and Kirsten, were found on top of her car, parked ominously at the scene of the crime in the desolate farmhouse. When emergency services finally arrived at the grim scene, they found Debra Jeter lying on the ground, a defeated figure enveloped in the consequences of her actions. She was promptly taken into custody by the responding officers, her surrender marking the end of a chilling chapter of violence and despair. The once quiet farmhouse had become a scene of urgent medical attention and law enforcement activity, as responders worked swiftly to attend to the critical needs of the young victim and ensure the safety of all involved. In the chilling aftermath at the abandoned farmhouse, the scene was heartbreakingly grim. Kirsten Jeter, only 13 years old, was found barely clinging to life, a testament to both her resilience and the direness of the situation. Tragically, her younger sister Kelsey had already succumbed to her injuries by the time the police arrived. The nightmarish ordeal had reached its climax, leaving nothing but sorrow and shock in its wake. Outside the house, in the stark emptiness of the garage, Debra Jeter had finally ceased her devastating actions. She laid down the knife, the instrument of the tragedy, and surrendered to the authorities without resistance. The police quickly took her into custody, and the focus immediately turned to saving Kirsten. In a desperate bid for her survival, Kirsten was airlifted to a Dallas hospital, where she underwent life-saving surgery. Debra, then 33, faced the full severity of the law. She was charged with the attempted murder of her older daughter Kirsten and the first-degree murder of her younger daughter Kelsey. The legal proceedings moved swiftly, and in May 2010, the case reached its conclusion. Facing the overwhelming evidence and the gravity of her actions, Debra pleaded guilty to the charges. Instead of facing a possible death sentence, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This sentence marked the end of a tragic saga that left 2 children's lives irreversibly changed and a family shattered by actions that beggared belief. Nearly a year after the harrowing events that almost claimed her life, Kirsten Jeter, along with her father Lester, made a profoundly emotional visit to a place they never hoped to see under such circumstances, the prison where Debra Jeter was held. The visit marked a significant moment for Kirsten, who had endured unimaginable trauma at the hands of her own mother, yet was navigating the path toward healing with a resilience that defied her young age. During their visit, Debra Jeter confronted the aftermath of her actions, expressing remorse for the suffering she caused. She explained that her actions were driven by deep-seated frustration stemming from her separation from Lester and the bitter custody battle that ensued over Kirsten and her sister Kelsey. It was a moment of stark realization of the irreversible impact of her decisions, not just on her life, but profoundly on the lives of her daughters. Today, Debra Jeter remains behind bars, serving her life sentence without the possibility of parole at a Texas Department of Criminal Justice prison unit in Gatesville. Her life is now confined to the limits of a prison cell, a consequence of the fateful choices she made that tragic day. As for Kirsten, her visit to the prison was a step in her long journey of recovery, confronting the past to find a way forward, supported by her father, who remains a steadfast pillar in her life. The story of the Jeter family continues to resonate as a sobering reminder of the deep and often hidden fractures that can disrupt the lives within a family, leading to consequences that are both tragic and far-reaching. As we wrap up the harrowing tale of the Jeter family, it's important for us to reflect on the deep-seated issues that led to such a tragic outcome. This case opens up critical conversations about mental health, the impacts of familial strife, and the justice system's role in handling such sensitive situations. We encourage all viewers to think deeply about these themes and consider how they affect not just individuals, but entire families. If this story has sparked your interest, or if you have thoughts and insights you'd like to share, feel free to share your views in the comments section below. Your perspectives enrich the conversation and help us all gain a more comprehensive understanding of complex issues like these. Thank you for joining us for this exploration into this deeply moving case. If you're interested in more intriguing and thought-provoking stories, stay tuned. we have a range of content that delves into similar issues, shedding light on the human experiences behind the headlines. Coming up next, we'll bring you another compelling story that challenges our perceptions and prompts us to think critically about the world around us. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos and updates from our channel. Your encouragement and support drive us to keep bringing these stories to light. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video.